Your father was wrong. Every time he told you to stand up for yourself, every time he said defend your name, every time he taught you to fight back, he trained you to lose. Because right now, someone's accusing you of something, and that voice in your head, your father's voice, is screaming, "Don't let them get away with it." That voice will destroy you. Machiavelli watched princes fall, not from bad decisions, from good defenses, from reasonable explanations, from trying to prove they were honorable men. The moment they opened their mouths to explain, the vultures smelled blood. Here's what your father didn't know. Here's what most men die never learning. Defense is submission disguised as strength. Think about the last time someone accused you. Your heart raced. Your face burned. Words tumbled out. Explanations, justifications, evidence of your innocence. And with every word you shrank. With every explanation they grew stronger. With every defense you handed them another weapon. You played their game, on their field, by their rules, and you lost before you even started. The most powerful men in history understood something your father didn't. When accused, when attacked, when your reputation is being torn apart in front of everyone, you do nothing. Not because you're weak, because you're untouchable. Watch what happens to your accuser when you don't defend yourself. Their voice changes. Their confidence cracks. They expected a fight. They prepared for your resistance. Your silence destroys their script. Now they're standing there alone, holding their own poison. The room isn't watching you anymore. They're watching them unravel, watching them expose themselves, because accusation without response becomes confession. Their attack reveals their insecurity. Their anger reveals their fear. Their need to tear you down reveals how small they feel next to you. But you're silent, calm, almost amused. And everyone sees it. Machiavelli called this the mirror principle. When you refuse to defend, you become a reflection. Your accuser sees their own weakness staring back. The audience sees who's really in control. The man who needs to defend himself has already admitted guilt. The man who doesn't need to defend himself has already won. This isn't about being nice. This isn't about taking the high road. This is about power. Raw, undeniable, terrifying power. Every defense you've ever made weakened you. Every explanation you've ever given diminished you. Every time you tried to prove you were a good man, you proved you weren't strong enough to be a dangerous one. Starting today, you stop defending yourself. Not because you can't, because defending yourself is beneath you. Let them talk. Let them accuse. Let them reveal who they really are, while you sit there, silent, becoming something they'll never understand. A man who doesn't need anyone's approval. A man who doesn't need to be understood. A man who knows something they don't. That real power never explains itself. It just is. And once you understand this, once you master this ancient principle, you'll discover something that changes everything. Something about the nature of respect, fear, and human psychology that transforms how the world sees you. Something Machiavelli discovered in exile. Something that made princes fear a powerless man more than their own armies. Silence is just the beginning. Because Machiavelli's real genius wasn't in avoiding the fight. It was in making your enemy destroy themselves with their own weapon. Your accuser thinks they have you cornered. They've prepared their attack, gathered their evidence, waited for the perfect moment to strike. They don't realize they've already lost, because instead of defending, you're about to do something that flips the entire game. Something so psychologically devastating, they'll never attack you again. You're going to make their accusation prove your power. Here's how it works. Someone calls you arrogant. You don't deny it. You don't defend it. You look them in the eye and say, "Confidence bothers you?" 3 words. Game over. What just happened? You didn't defend against their frame. You destroyed it. You made their attack reveal their insecurity. You turned their weapon into their confession. Someone says you're manipulative. You tilt your head slightly, half smile. That's what people say when they can't be influenced. You just made them admit they're weak. Someone accuses you of being cold. You pause. Let the silence build. Then, warmth is earned. You just told everyone in that room they're not worth your emotional investment. This isn't about clever comebacks. This is about psychological dominance. Every accusation contains the seed of its own reversal. Every attack reveals the attacker's fear. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote about power. The prince who defends his decisions looks weak. The prince who makes others defend their objections looks untouchable. Most men make a fatal mistake. When attacked, they try to prove the accusation wrong. I'm not arrogant. I'm just confident. I'm not cold. I'm focused. I'm not manipulative. I'm strategic. Every word makes you smaller. But when you reverse the frame, when you make their accusation sound like jealousy, when you turn their attack into their insecurity, you don't just win. You make them regret ever opening their mouth. Watch their face when you do this. The confusion, the scramble to recover, the desperate attempt to regain control. They expected you to play defense. Instead, you made them play it. I didn't mean it like that. You're twisting my words. That's not what I said. Now they're explaining. Now they're justifying. Now they're the one looking guilty. The room feels it. The power shift is tangible. You can taste it in the air. One moment they were the prosecutor. The next, they're begging for mercy. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said, "It's better to be feared than loved." Love requires explanation. Fear requires nothing but presence. Your accuser wanted to make you look weak. Instead, they exposed their own weakness. They wanted to control the narrative. Instead, they lost control of themselves. And everyone watching? They just learned something about you. You're not just unbreakable. You're dangerous. You don't just survive attacks. You feed on them. But here's where most men stop. They think one reversal is enough. They think they've won. They don't realize the game has just begun. Because the next level isn't just reversing their attack. It's disappearing entirely. It's becoming something they can't even target. It's becoming a ghost with power. Sometimes the most violent thing you can do is nothing. Let their words hang in the air. Let them echo in the silence. Let them burn in their own fire. Because here's what happens when you don't respond immediately. When you don't rush to fill the void. When you let the accusation sit there, naked and alone. It starts to rot. The accuser's confidence begins to crack. First, just a hairline fracture. Then wider. Then complete collapse. They expected impact. They got emptiness. And humans can't handle emptiness. So they fill it. With more words. More accusations. More desperation. Did you hear me? I'm talking to you. Say something. Each word makes them weaker. Each attempt makes them smaller. Each second of your silence makes you larger. Machiavelli discovered this in the courts of Florence. The men who rushed to answer charges always lost. The men who let accusations burn themselves out, they ruled. Because silence isn't passive. Silence is a verdict. When you don't defend yourself, you're not saying you're innocent. You're saying the accusation is so beneath you it doesn't deserve acknowledgement. You're saying the accuser is so irrelevant, their words are just noise. That's not defense. That's devastation. I've watched grown men crumble under their own attacks. Strong men. Confident men. Men who came prepared to destroy someone. But silence broke them. They start strong. Accusation delivered with precision. Evidence laid out. The perfect trap. 10 seconds pass. Nothing. 20 seconds. Still nothing. 30 seconds. The room changes. Now everyone's looking at them, wondering why they're so emotional, wondering why they need this so badly, wondering what they're really afraid of. The attacker feels it. The shift. The judgment. The tables turning without a word being spoken. They double down. Triple down. Get louder. Get more personal. Get desperate. And with every escalation, they reveal more of their own weakness, their own fear, their own pathetic need for your reaction. But you're an immovable object, a psychological fortress, a mirror that reflects their insecurity back at them. The longer you hold silence, the more powerful it becomes. Not awkward silence, not weak silence, controlled silence, deliberate silence, silence that says more than words ever could. This is what most men can't do. They crack at 5 seconds. They explain at 10. They defend at 15. But if you can hold past 30, past 60, let that accusation hang there until it suffocates under its own weight, you don't just win the moment. You win their respect, their fear, their permanent hesitation to ever come at you again. Because they'll remember. They'll remember how small they felt, how exposed, how their own attack became their humiliation. And they'll tell others, warn them. Don't go after him. He's different. He doesn't react like normal people. That's not a reputation. That's a legend. Machiavelli knew something most men die without learning. The loudest man in the room is the weakest. The man explaining is losing. The man defending is already defeated. But the silent man, the one who lets attacks burn themselves out, the one who watches his enemies self-destruct, he's the one they whisper about. Fear. Follow. He's the one who understands the next level. Because after you've mastered silence, after you've learned to let their attacks burn, you learn to vanish entirely, to become something they can't even find to attack. You learn to become untouchable. Now you weaponize their attack, not by fighting back, by making their accusation reveal their deepest insecurity. This is where boys become men, where men become kings, where kings become untouchable. Someone attacks your success? Sorry, my ambition makes you uncomfortable. Someone questions your loyalty? Interesting that trust issues always reveal the untrustworthy. Someone calls you selfish? Self-respect looks like selfishness to people who have none. You're not defending. You're diagnosing. You're not explaining. You're exposing. Every attack contains a confession. Every accusation reveals a fear. Every judgment shows a weakness. Your job is to find it. Name it. Let it bleed. Machiavelli mastered this when his enemies called him evil. He didn't defend his morality. He asked why good men accomplished so little. He made their virtue look like weakness. Their honor look like stupidity. Their attack became their embarrassment. Here's the psychology most men miss. When someone attacks you, they're not really talking about you. They're talking about themselves, their fears, their failures, their desperate need to drag you down to their level. The woman who calls you emotionally unavailable, she's advertising her neediness. The man who says you think you're better than everyone, he's confessing he knows you are. The friend who accuses you of changing, they're panicking because they haven't. Once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. Every attack becomes transparent. Every accusation becomes ammunition. But here's where the real power lies. You don't angrily throw this back at them. You don't emotionally react. You deliver it with the calm precision of a surgeon, almost sympathetic, almost concerned. Sounds like this is really bothering you. I didn't realize you felt so strongly about this. That's an interesting perspective. The subtext destroys them. You're not the one being emotional. They are. You're not the one with the problem. They are. You're not the one losing control. They are. The audience sees it immediately. Who's calm? Who's rattled? Who's in control? Who's desperate? You just made their attack backfire so spectacularly, they'll think twice before ever coming at you again. But most men can't do this. Know why? Because it requires something they don't have. Complete emotional control. Total detachment from their opinion. Absolute certainty in who you are. When you truly don't care what they think, their attacks become gifts, opportunities to demonstrate your power, chances to show the room who's really in charge. The attacker thinks they're hunting. They don't realize they're bleeding. They think they're exposing you. They don't realize they're exposing themselves. Every emotional attack is a confession of weakness. Every character assault is an admission of jealousy. Every public call-out is a desperate grab for relevance. And when you invert it, when you make them wear their own accusation, when you turn their weapon into their wound, you don't just survive the attack. You make them regret they ever had the audacity to come for you. Machiavelli said men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities. The necessity they feel when attacking you, to bring you down to their level. The necessity you create when you invert their attack, to run, because now they're not just defeated, they're exposed, not just beaten, humiliated, not just wrong, pathetic. And everyone saw it happen. But this still isn't the final form. This still isn't the ultimate power move, because the next level isn't just inverting their attack. It's disappearing so completely they can't even find you to attack. It's becoming a ghost that haunts them. The highest form of power isn't silence. It's vanishing, not blocking them, not avoiding them, just ceasing to exist in their world. They text, no response. They call, no answer. They show up. You're not there. They attack online. You don't even see it. You become the void they scream into. And here's what breaks them. You didn't run. You didn't hide. You just stopped acknowledging their existence. This is psychological warfare at its purest, because humans need closure. They need reactions. They need to know their words landed somewhere. But when you disappear, when you give them nothing but absence, they lose their minds. First comes confusion. Did he see it? Is he ignoring me? What's happening? Then comes anger. More messages, more attempts, more desperate grabs for your attention. Then comes the spiral. They talk to others about you, post about you, think about you, dream about you. Meanwhile, you've forgotten they exist. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote about fear and love. But he understood something deeper. The most powerful position isn't being feared or loved. It's being absent. The prince everyone talks about but no one sees. The power everyone feels but no one can locate. The presence that haunts without appearing. Watch what happens to someone when you completely disappear from their reality. Not gradually, not partially, instantly, completely. They become obsessed. They check your social media, ask mutual friends about you, wonder what you're doing, create elaborate stories about why you vanished. Your absence becomes larger than your presence ever was. They'll send that 2 a.m. text. Hey, then delete it, then send another. Can we talk? Then paragraphs, then anger, then pleading. Each message makes them smaller. Each attempt makes you more powerful. Each moment of your absence makes them more irrelevant. Because here's what absence does that silence can't. Silence is still engagement. You're still in the room, still in the game, still acknowledging their existence by refusing to speak. But absence? Absence says something silence never could. You don't exist to me. That's not an insult. That's erasure. That's removing someone from your universe entirely. That's playing God with reality itself. The person who attacked you? They're not your enemy anymore. They're nothing. Less than nothing. A ghost screaming at someone who can't even see them. Most men can't do this. Their ego needs the last word. Their pride needs to win. Their weakness needs to know they affected you. But when you can disappear, when you can vanish so completely that they question if the relationship ever existed, you've transcended normal power dynamics. You're not playing their game. You're not even in their reality. You've become something they can't fight, can't reach, can't affect. A memory that refuses to acknowledge them back. Machiavelli spent years in exile, disappeared from the courts he once ruled, but his absence became more powerful than his presence ever was. Princes feared the invisible man more than visible armies, because what you can see, you can fight. What disappears, you can only fear. They'll try everything to get your attention back. Public attacks, mutual friends, fake emergencies, new accounts, different approaches. Let them exhaust themselves chasing a ghost, because while they're destroying themselves trying to matter to you again, you're becoming something even more powerful. You're becoming untouchable. Not because you're strong, not because you're silent, not because you're smart, because you've mastered the ultimate power. The power to make someone realize they never mattered at all. Everything you just learned leads to this. The silence, the reversal, the absence. They're not techniques. They're transformations. Because when you master all three, something shifts. Not just in how others see you, in how reality itself bends around you. You develop an aura. People feel it before you speak, sense it before you enter the room, fear it before they know why. You walk differently now, slower, more deliberate, like you know something everyone else is still figuring out. Your eyes hold longer. Your voice drops lower. Your presence expands without effort. Because you've learned the secret Machiavelli died knowing. The secret that makes weak men powerful and powerful men untouchable. You don't need anyone's validation. You don't need anyone's understanding. You don't need anyone's permission to exist. When someone attacks you now, something strange happens. You almost pity them. Like watching a child throw rocks at a mountain. Amusing, irrelevant, forgotten. Your silence isn't strategy anymore. It's nature. Your absence isn't punishment. It's gift. Your power isn't performed. It's embodied. The room changes when you're in it. Conversations shift. Energy reorganizes. People unconsciously submit without knowing why. Because you've become what Machiavelli wrote about, but few ever achieve. A law unto yourself. The attacks don't stop. They increase. Weak people always attack what they can't understand. But now their attacks are confirmations, proof you've transcended their level, evidence of your evolution. You don't defend because you can't be diminished. You don't explain because you can't be misunderstood. You don't react because you can't be reached. Remember when you used to care? When their words could wound you? When their opinions mattered? That man is dead. And in his place stands something far more dangerous. Someone who doesn't need to be liked, doesn't need to be good, doesn't need to be anything but himself. The world will call you cold, arrogant, dangerous. Let them. Because while they're busy describing what they fear, you're busy becoming what they can't. untouchable. This is your transformation. This is your power. This is your time. Welcome to the other side.